The security camera captured it all: Karen's white-knuckled grip on the gun, the children's screams echoing across the pristine pool deck, and the moment her entitled rage crossed a line that would destroy everything she thought she owned. What started as a neighborhood dispute over pool rules ended with gunshots, viral footage, and a verdict that would shock even her defense attorney. But the real twist: the person she targeted wasn't who she thought it was. Karen Whitmore adjusted her oversized sunglasses and surveyed her domain from the mahogany deck of her $2.3 million house. The Willowbrook community pool sparkled below, its crystal clear water reflecting the Arizona sun like scattered diamonds. Everything was exactly as it should be: pristine, controlled, and exclusively hers to oversee as president of the Homeowners Association. "Miguel," she barked at the landscaper trimming hedges near the pool gate. "Those children are making too much noise. It's past quiet hours." Miguel looked up, confusion creasing his weathered face. "Mrs. Whitmore, it's only 2 in the afternoon. Quiet hours don't start until..." "Don't tell me the rules. I wrote the rules." Karen's manicured fingers tightened around her phone. "And I'm calling security if you don't handle this immediately." 3 children splashed in the shallow end, while their mother, a young black woman in scrubs, sat on a pool chair scrolling through her phone. Karen had never seen them before, which meant they were probably guests, and guests meant potential rule violations. Karen's Italian leather heels clicked against the concrete as she marched toward the pool area. The electronic gate beeped as her key fob granted access, the sound sharp and authoritative. Several residents looked up from their lounges, recognizing the storm brewing in Karen's approach. "Excuse me," Karen announced, her voice carrying across the water. "This is a private community pool. Do you have authorization to be here?" The woman in scrubs looked up, her dark eyes tired but patient. "I'm Dr. Amara Johnson. I live at 1247 Sycamore. These are my children." Karen's jaw tightened. She knew every homeowner in Willowbrook, and 1247 Sycamore had been empty for months. "That house isn't even furnished. There's no way you live there. We moved in yesterday." Dr. Johnson stood slowly, her movements deliberate and calm. "I can show you my lease if..." "Lease?" Karen's voice pitched higher. "This is a homeowners community. We don't do rentals here. That's specifically prohibited in the CC&RS. The children continued playing, oblivious to the tension building above them. Their laughter echoed off the pool house walls, each giggle seeming to fuel Karen's mounting rage. "Mrs. Whitmore." The voice belonged to Tom Chen, a software engineer who lived 3 houses down. He approached cautiously, his laptop still in hand from working poolside. "Maybe we should check the..." "Tom, this doesn't concern you." Karen's tone could have frozen the pool water. "I'm handling an unauthorized access situation." Dr. Johnson pulled her phone from her purse. "I can call my realtor right now. There's obviously been some confusion." "The only confusion," Karen said, stepping closer, "is how you think you can just waltz into our community and use our amenities without proper documentation. These children are being disruptive, and you're trespassing." "Mom, look at me dive." 8-year-old Marcus called from the pool edge. "Not now, baby," Dr. Johnson replied, her voice strained. "We might need to go home." The word home hit Karen like a slap. This isn't your home. Your home is wherever you came from before you decided to squat in our neighborhood. A hush fell over the pool area. Even the children stopped splashing, sensing the shift in atmosphere. Tom Chen set down his laptop and stood. "Karen, that's enough." His voice was firm but measured. "You're out of line." "Out of line?" Karen whirled on him. "I'm protecting our property values. I'm protecting our way of life. When we start letting..." Just anybody what?" Dr. Johnson's voice remained steady, but her hands had begun to shake. "Say what you really mean, Mrs. Whitmore." Karen's face flushed red. "I mean people who don't belong here. People who haven't earned the right to be here. People who think they can just show up and change everything we've built. Kids, get out of the pool." Dr. Johnson's command was quiet but immediate. Marcus, his sister Zoe, and their cousin Devon scrambled up the ladder, water streaming from their swimsuits. "Now you're leaving," Karen said with satisfaction. "Good. And don't come back until you have proper authorization." Dr. Johnson began gathering towels and pool toys with mechanical precision. "My authorization is a legal purchase contract for 1247 Sycamore, which I signed yesterday morning. My children have every right to use these amenities." "Purchase?" Karen's voice cracked. "That's impossible. The Hendersons would never sell to," she caught herself, but not quickly enough. "To what, Mrs. Whitmore?" Dr. Johnson stopped packing and faced Karen directly. "Finish that sentence." The pool deck had become a theater, with a dozen residents now watching the confrontation unfold. Some fumbled with their phones, recording the exchange. Karen noticed the cameras and felt a surge of panic mixed with rage. To someone without proper HOA approval, Karen finished lamely. "All sales require board approval." Tom Chen pulled out his own phone. "Karen, I'm looking at the HOA bylaws right now. There's no such requirement for board approval of sales." "You're wrong," Karen snapped. "I've been president for 6 years. I know our rules better than anyone." "Mom, why is that lady being mean to us?" Zoe whispered, tugging on her mother's scrubs. Dr. Johnson knelt down to her daughter's level. "Sometimes people are scared of change, baby. It makes them say things they don't mean." "I mean every word," Karen said coldly. "And I'll be filing a formal complaint with the management company first thing Monday morning. Along with a noise violation, a trespassing citation, and a demand for immediate eviction proceedings." "Eviction proceedings?" Dr. Johnson stood slowly, her composure finally beginning to crack. "For what?" "Using the pool. Playing with my children. For disrupting the peace and quiet that the residents of this community pay premium prices to enjoy." "The only person disrupting anything is you," Tom said, stepping between the two women. "Dr. Johnson, please don't let her run you off. You have every right to be here." Karen's hand moved to her purse, a Louis Vuitton bag that contained, among other things, the .38 revolver she'd started carrying after watching too many news stories about urban crime moving to the suburbs. "Tom, I suggest you mind your own business before this escalates further." "Is that a threat?" Dr. Johnson asked, her voice deadly quiet. "It's a promise," Karen replied. "I will not let this community be destroyed by people who don't understand what we've built here. What we've sacrificed to maintain." Dr. Johnson finished packing their belongings, her movements now quick and efficient. "Kids, we are leaving. Now." "But Mom," Marcus started to protest. "Now, Marcus." As the family headed toward the gate, Karen called after them, "And next time, bring proper identification. Better yet, don't come back at all until you've gone through the proper channels." Dr. Johnson stopped at the gate and turned back. "Mrs. Whitmore, I'm a trauma surgeon at Phoenix General. I spent 14 hours yesterday saving lives, and I'll spend 14 hours tonight doing the same. All I wanted was for my children to have a safe place to swim after we moved into our new home. But apparently, that's too much to ask." "Your sob story doesn't change the rules," Karen said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. "No," Dr. Johnson replied, scanning the crowd of watching residents. "But maybe it's time the rules changed." She walked through the gate with her children, leaving behind a pool deck full of uncomfortable silence and lifted phone cameras. Karen stood alone in the center of it all, her perfect world suddenly feeling far less secure. Around her, residents began to murmur among themselves, and she caught fragments of their conversations completely out of line. "Can't believe she said that. Definitely posting this online." "Show's over," Karen announced to the crowd. "Everyone back to your activities." But as she walked back toward her house, Karen could feel their eyes on her back, and for the first time in 6 years as HOA president, she wondered if her absolute authority might not be as absolute as she'd thought. What she didn't know was that Tom Chen had live-streamed the entire encounter to his neighborhood Facebook group, where it was already being shared and reshared. What she also didn't know was that Dr. Johnson's purchase of 1247 Sycamore had been completely legal and final, and that the deed had actually been signed by Karen's own husband, who worked for the real estate company handling the sale. But she was about to find out both of those things very soon, and when she did, the gun in her purse would start to feel like the only solution to a problem that was spiraling completely out of her control. Karen's hands trembled as she poured her third glass of Chardonnay, the bottle now half empty, on her granite kitchen counter. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, she could see the pool area below, mercifully empty in the fading twilight. Her phone buzzed incessantly on the counter, notifications she'd been ignoring for the past 2 hours. The front door slammed shut, and Richard's voice echoed through the foyer. "Karen, we need to talk. Now." Her husband appeared in the kitchen doorway, his usually perfect hair disheveled, his tie loosened around his neck. Richard Whitmore looked like a man who'd spent the day putting out fires, and Karen had a sinking feeling she knew which fire had consumed his attention. "Did you have a good day at the office, dear?" Karen's voice dripped with false sweetness, but her grip on the wine glass betrayed her anxiety. "Cut the act, Karen. I've had 17 phone calls, 43 text messages, and 3 clients threatening to pull their listings because of what you did today." Richard's voice was low and dangerous. "What the hell were you thinking?" "I was protecting our community. Something you'd understand if you spent any time here instead of kissing ass at that real estate office." Richard pulled out his phone and held it up to her face. The screen showed Tom Chen's Facebook Live video, which had already accumulated 47,000 views and 1,200 comments. Karen watched herself on the small screen, her voice sharp and venomous as she confronted Dr. Johnson. "Protecting our community." Richard's laugh was bitter. "You just destroyed it. And you destroyed my career while you were at it." Karen set down her wine glass harder than necessary. "Your career?" "Richard, that woman was trespassing. She had no right. She owns the house, Karen." Richard's voice exploded through the kitchen. "I processed the sale myself. Dr. Amara Johnson is a trauma surgeon who paid $2.4 million cash for 1247 Sycamore. She's our neighbor, and you just humiliated her and me in front of the entire internet." The wine glass slipped from Karen's suddenly numb fingers, shattering against the tile floor. You sold to her. Without consulting me." "Consulting you?" Richard stared at his wife as if seeing her for the first time. "Karen, you're the HOA president, not the Queen of Arizona. I don't need your permission to do my job." Karen's phone buzzed again. This time, she grabbed it and saw a text from her sister. "Karen, what the hell is this video everyone's sharing? Mom's church group is asking questions." With growing dread, Karen opened her social media apps. The video was everywhere: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Someone had created a hashtag #PullKaren. The comments were brutal. "This is exactly why HOAs should be illegal. Someone needs to check this woman's hard drive because this level of racism doesn't happen in a vacuum. How is this woman in charge of anything? She's unhinged. Poor kids just wanted to swim. This Karen is pure evil." But it was the top comment that made Karen's blood run cold. "I found her LinkedIn. She works for Pinnacle Insurance. Let's make sure they know what kind of person represents their company." "Richard," Karen's voice was barely a whisper. "How bad is this? See for yourself." Richard's phone showed his work email inbox, dozens of messages from colleagues, clients, and strangers. "Half my listings are threatening to switch agencies. The other half are demanding I be fired. And that's just today." Karen scrolled through her own phone, watching the view count climb: 52,000, 53,000 to 54,000. Each refresh brought hundreds more comments, each one more damning than the last. "We can fix this," Karen said, her voice taking on the commanding tone she used in HOA meetings. "I'll release a statement. Explain the situation. People will understand once they know the full context." "The full context?" Richard laughed harshly. "The full context is that you racially profiled a doctor and her children because you couldn't believe a black family could afford to live in our neighborhood. I never said anything about race. You didn't have to, Karen. Everyone can see. Exactly what you meant. Karen's phone rang, her boss at Pinnacle Insurance. She let it go to voicemail, but Richard was watching her face. Who was that? No one important. The house phone rang next. Then Richard's phone. Then Karen's again. We need to leave, Richard said suddenly. Pack a bag. We are staying at the Ritz tonight. Leave. Richard, this is our home. I'm not running. From a bunch of internet trolls. Look outside, Karen. She moved to the window and peered through the blinds. A news van was parked across the street, its satellite dish extended. A reporter was setting up equipment while a cameraman tested lighting. Oh my God. Channel 12 called me an hour ago. So did the Arizona Republic. This isn't going away, Karen. This is just the beginning. Karen's voicemail notification chimed. With shaking fingers, she played the message from her boss. Karen, this is Dave. I'm sure you're aware of the video circulating online. We need to discuss your employment status first thing Monday morning. Please don't speak to any media outlets until we've had a chance to review the situation. This is concerning. The doorbell rang, followed by aggressive knocking. Mrs. Whitmore. This is Jessica Martinez from Channel 12 News. We'd like to give you an opportunity to share your side of the story. Richard grabbed Karen's arm. Upstairs. Now. We are leaving through the back. But Karen pulled away, her panic crystallizing into rage. No. I'm not hiding. I'm the victim here. That woman came into our community and disrupted our peaceful environment. If people can't see that, then they are the problem. Karen, listen to yourself. You sound insane. I sound like someone who's tired of watching everything I've worked for get destroyed by people who think they can just take whatever they want. The knocking intensified. Through the window, Karen could see more news trucks arriving. Neighbors were emerging from their houses, some pointing, others recording with their phones. Mrs. Whitmore, we just have a few questions. Karen marched to her purse and pulled out her .38 revolver. Maybe this will get their attention. Karen, what the hell are you doing? Richard's voice cracked with terror. I'm taking back control. Karen's eyes had taken on a wild gleam. I'm tired of being the victim in my own neighborhood. Put the gun away. Right now. Don't tell me what to do, Richard. You've done enough damage for one day. Karen moved toward the front door. Time to set the record straight. Richard lunged for the gun, but Karen was already opening the door. The bright lights from the news cameras hit her like a physical blow, and she squinted against the glare. Mrs. Whitmore. Jessica Martinez thrust a microphone toward her face. Do you have any comment on the video that's gone viral? Yes, I do. Karen's voice was steady now, fueled by righteous anger. I have built this community into something special. Something safe and beautiful and valuable. And I will not stand by and watch it be destroyed by people who have no respect for rules, no respect for property values, and no respect for the sacrifices we've made to live here. Are you referring to Dr. Johnson and her family? I'm referring to anyone who thinks they can just show up and change everything we've worked for. This is America. We have property rights. We have community standards. And we have the right to protect what's ours. Behind the reporter, Karen could see Dr. Johnson's house. The lights were on, and she could make out figures moving behind the curtains. The sight of that family in her neighborhood sent a fresh wave of rage through her system. What would you say to people who view your actions as racially motivated? I would say they are wrong. This has nothing to do with race and everything to do with respect. Respect for rules. Respect for community standards. Respect for the people who built this place. So you stand by your actions? Absolutely. Karen's grip tightened on the gun behind her back. And I'll continue to protect this community from anyone who threatens our way of life. What Karen didn't know was that her impromptu press conference was being live-streamed to Facebook by at least 6 different neighbors, including Tom Chen, who was also recording from his upstairs window. What she also didn't know was that Dr. Johnson was watching from her living room, her 3 children pressed against her sides, all of them wondering if they'd made a terrible mistake moving to Willowbrook. But most importantly, what Karen didn't know was that a public declaration of war against her new neighbor had just been broadcast to over 100,000 people, turning her from a local embarrassment into a national symbol of everything wrong with American suburbia. And tomorrow, when Dr. Johnson's children returned to the pool, Karen would be waiting with more than just harsh words. Karen hadn't slept. She sat in her home office at 6 a.m., surrounded by empty wine bottles and crumpled tissues, watching the view count on her impromptu press conference climb past 2.8 million. Her company laptop displayed an email from HR requesting her immediate presence for a disciplinary hearing. Her personal phone showed 847 missed calls and 3,200 text messages. Richard had left sometime after midnight, taking only a suitcase and his shame. His parting words still echoed in her mind, "I don't know who you are anymore, Karen. But I can't be married to this version of you." The doorbell rang at exactly 6:15 a.m. Through the security camera, Karen saw 2 uniformed police officers standing on her pristine doorstep. Behind them, news vans had multiplied like cancer cells. She counted at least 8, their satellite dishes reaching toward the grey morning sky like mechanical prayers. "Mrs. Whitmore." The older officer's voice was professional but firm. "We'd like to ask you a few questions about the incident yesterday. And about the weapon you displayed during your statement to the media." Karen's hand instinctively moved to the .38 in her robe pocket. She'd been carrying it since last night, its weight both comforting and terrifying. "I don't have to answer any questions without a lawyer." "No, you don't. But we've had several complaints about threatening behavior, and we wanted to give you a chance to clear the air." Through her window, Karen could see Dr. Johnson's house. A white sedan sat in the driveway, probably a rental car since they'd just moved. The sight of that car in her neighborhood sent familiar rage coursing through her system. "I wasn't threatening anyone," Karen called through the door. "I was exercising my Second Amendment rights on my own property." The younger officer exchanged a glance with his partner. "Mrs. Whitmore, could you open the door please? We just want to talk." But Karen was no longer listening. Movement at 1247 Sycamore had caught her attention. Dr. Johnson emerged from the house carrying pool bags and towels, followed by her 3 children in swimsuits and cover-ups. They were headed to the pool. To a pool. "She's doing it again." Karen whispered, then louder, "She's doing it again." The officers outside began knocking more urgently. "Mrs. Whitmore, is everything all right in there?" Karen grabbed her phone and called Tom Chen. He answered on the first ring, his voice thick with sleep. "Karen. It's 6 in the morning. They are at the pool again, Tom. That family. They are violating the quiet hours policy. As a board member, you need to, Karen, there are no quiet hours at the pool during the day. And even if there were, it's barely past sunrise. No one's even swimming yet. They will be. And when they are, they'll be breaking the rules again." "What rules, Karen? What specific rule are they breaking?" Karen's mind raced. There had to be something. Some regulation she could enforce. Some authority she could exercise. Guest policies. They haven't registered as residents with the management company. "Karen, they bought the house. They live there. They are not guests. That's impossible. The Hendersons would never." She stopped, remembering Richard's revelation from the night before. The Hendersons had sold to Dr. Johnson through Richard's company. "Karen, are you okay? You sound..." She hung up and called the HOA management company. The automated system informed her that the office opened at 8 a.m. She called anyway, leaving a rambling voicemail about unauthorized pool access and the need for immediate intervention. Outside, the police officers were conferring with the news crews. Karen could see reporters positioning themselves for optimal shots of both her house and the pool area. They were waiting for something to happen. They wanted a show. Karen would give them one. she changed into her designer workout clothes, armor for the battle ahead. The .38 went into her Lululemon jacket pocket, its outline barely visible against the technical fabric. She applied makeup with the precision of a surgeon, each stroke designed to project authority and control. By 7 a.m., she was positioned on her deck with a clear view of the pool. Dr. Johnson and her children had indeed entered the pool area. The kids were in the water now, their laughter carrying across the morning air like weapons aimed directly at Karen's sanity. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, "We see you watching. Leave those kids alone." Then another, "The whole world is watching now, Karen. Don't do anything stupid." And another, "Someone should call CPS on you for being unfit to be around children." The texts kept coming, each one more threatening than the last. Somehow, strangers on the internet had found her personal phone number. They were inside her digital life now, invading her last refuge. Karen walked down to the pool area, her heels clicking against the concrete like a countdown timer. The security cameras tracked her movement, she could feel their electronic eyes recording every step for posterity. "Excuse me," she called out as she approached the pool. "Dr. Johnson." The children stopped playing. Dr. Johnson looked up from her phone, wariness immediately clouding her features. "Mrs. Whitmore. Good morning. I need to discuss proper pool registration procedures with you. There seems to be some confusion about your access privileges. We've been over this. I own 1247 Sycamore. My children have every right to use these facilities. Rights are earned, Dr. Johnson. They are not just given because you write a check." Tom Chen appeared from behind the pool house, laptop in hand. "As usual. Karen, what are you doing here?" "Performing my duties as HOA president. Something has to maintain order around here. Karen, please. Just go home. Let them swim in peace." But peace was the last thing on Karen's mind. Through the corner of her eye, she could see the news cameras positioned beyond the pool fence, their lenses trained on the unfolding drama. This was her chance to set the record straight. To show the world that some people still believed in rules and consequences. "Kids out of the pool," Dr. Johnson said quietly. "But Mom," Marcus started to protest. "Now." "No," Karen said sharply. "Don't leave on my account. I want to discuss this like civilized adults." Dr. Johnson stood slowly, her body language shifting into something more defensive. "Mrs. Whitmore, I've been patient with you. But my patience has limits. As does mine." Karen's hand moved to her jacket pocket. "I've spent 6 years building this community into something special. Something worth protecting. And I will not stand by and watch it be destroyed by people who think they can just show up and change everything." "Change what, exactly?" Dr. Johnson's voice was steady, but Karen could see the tension in her shoulders. "The character of this neighborhood. The kind of families who live here. The standards we maintain." "What kind of families, Mrs. Whitmore? Say it clearly." Around the pool, other residents had begun to gather. They formed a loose circle around the confrontation, their phones out and recording. Karen could feel their judgment, their disapproval, their betrayal of everything she'd tried to build. "The kind of families who respect rules," Karen said, her voice rising. "Who understand that some things are earned, not just taken. Who appreciate what it means to belong somewhere instead of just moving in and expecting everyone else to accommodate them." "Accommodate us how?" "By letting us swim in the pool we pay HOA fees to maintain. By letting you change the entire culture of this place." Karen's voice cracked with emotion. "This was a peaceful community before you showed up. Now there are news vans and protesters and police cars. You've brought chaos into our sanctuary." Dr. Johnson took a step closer. "Mrs. Whitmore, the only chaos here is coming from you. My children are swimming in a pool. That's it. That's the entire extent of what we've done. That's what it starts with," Karen said, her hand now fully gripping the gun in her pocket. "First the pool. Then the community center. Then you'll want to change the landscaping, the security policies, the demographic makeup of the entire neighborhood. The demographic makeup. Dr. Johnson's voice was dangerously quiet. Around them, the crowd had grown larger. Karen could see Tom Chen on his phone, probably calling for help. She could see other residents backing away, creating distance between themselves and the escalating confrontation. "You know exactly what I mean," Karen said. "No, I don't." "Explain it to me." Karen looked around at all the phones pointed in her direction, all the witnesses to her justified stand against the erosion of everything she'd worked to protect. This was her moment. Her chance to make them understand. "I mean that some of us have invested everything in preserving what makes this place special. And we won't let anyone destroy that just because they think they have the right to be here." She pulled out the gun. The world went silent except for the sound of children screaming and adults shouting and water splashing as people scrambled for cover. Karen stood in the center of it all, the .38 steady in her hands, pointed directly at Dr. Johnson. "Now," Karen said, her voice calm for the first time in days, "let's discuss those pool rules properly." What Karen didn't realize was that her display of the weapon had just been broadcast live to over 50,000 viewers on multiple social media platforms. What she also didn't realize was that the police officers who had been waiting outside her house were already en route to the pool. But most critically, what Karen didn't realize was that among the crowd of residents backing away in terror was an off-duty security guard who was legally armed and authorized to respond to exactly this type of threat. The time moved like honey in the Arizona heat. Karen stood with the gun pointed at Dr. Johnson, her hands surprisingly steady despite the chaos erupting around them. Children's screams echoed off the pool house walls as parents scooped up their kids and ran for the exits. Water continued to lap against the pool edges, indifferent to the human drama unfolding above its surface. "Put the gun down, Karen." Tom Chen's voice came from behind a concrete planter, his laptop abandoned and cracked on the deck. "This isn't you. This isn't who you want to be." "Don't tell me who I am," Karen replied without taking her eyes off Dr. Johnson. "I know exactly who I am. I'm the person who's been holding this community together while everyone else takes it for granted." Dr. Johnson had gone perfectly still, her hands raised slightly, her body positioned between Karen and the pool where her children huddled together in the shallow end. "Mrs. Whitmore, please. Think about what you're doing. Think about those cameras." Karen's peripheral vision caught the news crews beyond the fence, their equipment trained on her like artillery. "Good. Let them broadcast this. Let the world see what happened when someone finally stood up for order and decency." "I am thinking," Karen said. "For the first time in months, I'm thinking clearly. You want to know what the problem is with this country? It's that people like you think you can just show up anywhere and everyone else has to adjust. Well, not here. Not in my community. Your community." Dr. Johnson's voice remained calm, but Karen could see the fear in her eyes. "Mrs. Whitmore, I paid $2.4 million for my house. I pay the same HOA fees you do. This is my community too. Money doesn't buy you the right to belong somewhere. Belonging has to be earned." Behind the landscaping, movement caught Karen's attention. A man in a maintenance uniform was crouched low, moving with purpose. She swung the gun toward him. "Stay where you are." The man froze. It was Miguel, the landscaper she'd been harassing for months. His hands went up immediately. "Easy, Mrs. Whitmore. I'm just trying to get to my truck. Everyone stays put until this is resolved." In the distance, sirens wailed, police, maybe ambulances, definitely coming closer. Karen felt a surge of satisfaction. Finally, people were taking this seriously. Finally, there would be consequences. "Karen." The voice belonged to Janet Reeves, an elderly woman who lived 2 streets over. She'd emerged from behind a pool chair. Her silver hair disheveled, her usually perfect makeup streaked with tears. "Honey, I've known you for 6 years. You organized the charity drive when my husband had his heart attack. You brought us dinner for a week. This isn't you. This is exactly me," Karen snapped. "This is me protecting everything we've built together. Everything we've sacrificed for." What have we sacrificed, Karen? What exactly have we lost by having new neighbors? Karen's grip on the gun tightened. Nobody understood. They couldn't see the bigger picture, couldn't comprehend what was at stake. We've lost our identity. Our cohesion. Our what? Dr. Johnson interrupted. Our whiteness. Is that what you're really trying to protect? The words hit Karen like a physical blow. How dare you? This has nothing to do with, then what? What exactly changes about your life if my children swim in this pool? Karen's mind raced for an answer that didn't confirm what everyone was thinking. But the truth was simpler and uglier than any justification she could manufacture. The truth was that seeing Dr. Johnson's family in her pool, in her neighborhood, in her perfect controlled world, made her feel like she was losing something essential about herself. You wouldn't understand, Karen said finally. Try me. The sirens were getting louder. Through the fence, Karen could see police cars turning into the community. Time was running out. This was her last chance to make them understand, to justify everything that had led to this moment. When I moved here, Karen began, her voice taking on a lecturing tone, this was a place where people understood certain standards. Certain expectations about behavior and presentation and values. We all made sacrifices to live here. We all followed the same rules. What rules? What standards? The unspoken ones. Karen's voice cracked with frustration. The ones that kept this place special and safe and predictable. Dr. Johnson took a small step forward. Mrs. Whitmore, I'm a surgeon. I save lives for a living. I've been married to the same man for 12 years. My children get straight A's and volunteer at the animal shelter. What about my family threatens your standards? Karen opened her mouth to respond but found herself speechless. The honest answer, that Dr. Johnson's presence forced her to confront the ugly assumptions she'd built her worldview around, was too terrible to voice. Mrs. Whitmore. A amplified voice echoed across the pool area. This is Sergeant Rodriguez. With Phoenix PD. We need you to put down your weapon and talk to us. Karen spun toward the voice, the gun sweeping across the crowd of cowering residents. Several people screamed and dropped lower behind whatever cover they could find. I'm not putting down anything until people start listening to reason. We are listening. But we need you to lower your weapon so we can have a proper conversation. Through the fence, Karen could see tactical officers moving into position. Their presence validated her importance, her power to command attention and respect. But it also meant her time was limited. Dr. Johnson, Karen said, turning back to face her target. I want you and your family to pack up and leave. Sell the house. Move somewhere more appropriate. And I want you to do it today. That's not going to happen. Then you're forcing my hand. Karen raised the gun higher, her finger moving toward the trigger. Around the pool, people screamed and dove for cover. Miguel rolled behind a maintenance cart. Tom Chen shielded his wife with his body. Janet Reeves pressed herself against the pool house wall, tears streaming down her face. But Dr. Johnson didn't move. She stood perfectly still, her hands at her sides, her eyes locked on Karen's face. Go ahead, Dr. Johnson said quietly. Pull that trigger. Show your children what kind of world you want them to inherit. Show those cameras what you really believe. Show everyone exactly who Karen Whitmore really is. Karen's hand began to shake. The weight of the moment, the cameras, the witnesses, the sirens, the absolute finality of what she was about to do, crashed over her like a wave. I'm not, Karen started to say. This isn't, behind her, a voice spoke with quiet authority, I need you to drop your weapon. Now. Karen spun around to find herself facing Marcus Webb, a security guard who lived 3 streets over. He was pointing his service weapon directly at her center mass, his stance professional and unwavering. Marcus. Karen's voice was suddenly small and confused. What are you doing? My job, Mrs. Whitmore. Drop the gun. But I'm protecting the community. I'm protecting all of us. You're threatening innocent people with a deadly weapon. That's not protection. That's terrorism. The word terrorism hit Karen like electricity. She wasn't a terrorist. She was a guardian, a protector, a force for order in an increasingly chaotic world. You don't understand, Karen said, but her voice lacked conviction now. She doesn't belong here. Mrs. Whitmore, drop your weapon or I will be forced to stop the threat you pose to these people. Karen looked around at the faces surrounding her. Where she expected to see understanding and support, she found only fear and revulsion. These people, her neighbors, her community, her carefully cultivated social circle, were looking at her like she was a monster. This isn't how this was supposed to go, Karen whispered. But the gun was still in her hands, still pointed in Dr. Johnson's direction. And Marcus Webb was still pointing his weapon at her. And the police were still approaching. From beyond the fence. Karen made her choice. She pulled the trigger. The sound shattered the morning air like thunder, followed immediately by screaming and the splash of people diving into the pool for cover. But Karen's shot went wide, striking the concrete several feet from where Dr. Johnson stood. Marcus Webb didn't miss. His return fire caught Karen center mass, the impact spinning her around and sending her crashing into a pool chair. The .38 flew from her hands, skittering across the concrete and coming to rest against the diving board. Karen lay on her back, staring up at the Arizona sky, red spreading across her designer workout clothes. Around her, chaos erupted as police flooded the pool area and paramedics rushed to provide aid. But all Karen could think about, as consciousness faded, was how quiet it had become. The children had stopped screaming. The water had stopped splashing. Even the sirens seemed distant and muted. For the first time in days, Willowbrook Community Pool was perfectly, finally silent. What Karen didn't know, as she lost consciousness on the concrete she'd walked across thousands of times as HOA president, was that a single gunshot and Marcus Webb's response had been broadcast live to over 200,000 viewers. What she also didn't know was that she would survive her wounds, only to face charges that would ensure she never saw the outside of a prison cell again. But most ironically, what Karen didn't know was that Dr. Johnson would be the trauma surgeon who saved her life in the operating room that afternoon, working for 6 hours to repair the damage Marcus Webb's bullet had done to the woman who had tried to kill her.